Ciao, I'm Mario, the Swiss car guy on YouTube, and today I'm sitting in the sunroom of my new house. The house of which I made a video about pretty much exactly 1 month ago, because I bought this house 1 month ago, even though the video didn't come out until like 3 or almost 4 weeks after I bought it. But this is a little update on the house, and also this is the video where I promised to tell you how much I paid for the house. And this is why I'm sitting here at my little table with my laptop and with the numbers. Oh, and if you hear shooting in the background, it's because I live next to the shooting range. So people like to shoot, especially in the evening, like now. I'd like to thank everybody who commented on the last video. I got a lot of positive comments about the house. I know it needs a bit of work, but I think it has a lot of potential, given enough money. And now the question, of course, is, and what also many people guessed, how much did I spend on the house? I could just give you the number now, or I tell you the whole story of how I bought the house. And of course, I'm going to do the long way. It's obvious. This house popped up for sale in March of this year, I believe, and it was sold under a offer system, very specific. In Switzerland, it's kind of usual, I think, nowadays, that houses are being sold against best offer. So basically a house is advertised for like 600,000 francs and eventually gets sold for 900 because they do an artificially low price, and then people bid and bid and bid, and then they outbid themselves. So usually when houses are offered in this kind of system where you have to do offers, I tend not to bother because it's usually a waste of time. So anyway, I thought, well, this house with the workshops underneath is kind of unique, so I should at least go have a look at it. So I went have a look at it. I spent like 15 minutes here and looked very superficially at everything, and then I decided, well, yeah, this house might work. They had put a price in the ad of 800,000 Swiss francs as a starting base. The particular thing about the way they sold the house, this house was sold basically by social services, because the owner of the house, which is an elderly lady, she is still alive, but she is in intensive care in a care home. She's, I think, 94 years old. And in Switzerland, usually if you come into a care home, at some point, if you have money, you have to pay for it. And since this lady obviously owned this house, she had money. So at some point, the social services agency had to sell the house in order to pay for her care, which sounds very, very bad. But I mean, the alternative is that the general public pays for basically wealthy old people. So anyway, I'm not criticizing the system. It's just this house was sold by a public entity, basically. And therefore, they had quite specific rules on how the house would be sold. And they basically said, okay, there's going to be 2 rounds of offers, and whoever participated in the first round is allowed to make a second offer in the second round, which I reckon is kind of a bit of a better system for a buyer, because that way you avoid the bidding war where you have an offer and then another offer and another offer and another offer and another offer. So I thought, well, I'll bid on the house. So I gave a really low ball offer on the first round. I think I offered like 700,000 or something like that. And I say a low ball offer because this house, it came with a valuation. So basically the official, I don't know what it's called, the guy who values houses, but basically he had valued this house at 870,000 Swiss francs. And they had it for sale for 800. So to me it was obvious this house was never going to sell for less than 900. So especially being used to Zurich prices, which tend to be quite a bit higher than Schaffhausen prices, I was thinking, maybe offering 950 or something like that. Then I went to talk with a couple of banks because I need to finance the whole thing because I don't have 950,000 Swiss francs, just to be sure. No, in Switzerland usually you have a 20% down payment and you finance the rest. And then you don't ever really pay your mortgage completely off. It means you have to usually pay your mortgage off or down to 66%. So you start at 80 and you end up at 66%. So you have to basically pay off 14% of your mortgage. And once you have paid off these 14%, you keep your mortgage forever. And many people don't, they pay most of their mortgage off. But in Switzerland, it's very particular because it has negative implication on your taxes. That means if you own a property where you live, the government says, well, by owning this property, you're saving rent. Therefore, they basically charge you rent. So basically they say this house, renting it would be like 2,500 Swiss francs a month. So the government says, well, let's say 60-70% of that, which is like 1,200, 1,300 francs a month, we will count as your income because you save money because you don't have to pay rent. I had to buy the house, so it's weird. So basically, you want to have a mortgage because the interest payments for the mortgage is something you can deduct from your taxable income. So basically, in this house, if it's like my self-rent value, what the government says should be added to my income is around like 1,300 bucks a month, and I pay interest of 1,300 bucks a month, then it's a net zero. So my income doesn't change. I don't pay more taxes. I do pay the interest on the loan, obviously, but I still save on taxes. So it's actually not that bad. And this is also the reason why most people in Switzerland usually keep quite a high mortgage because otherwise their taxes increase. And especially since taxes, they increase progressively, it could be that by adding this additional income, your tax rate goes up from like 18 to 20%. So not only do you pay absolutely more, but also relatively more taxes. It's tax stories. Anyway, I had to finance the house. I had to get most money from a bank or something. So I talked to a couple of local banks because usually I think local banks, they know best what a property is worth. So I talked with a bank from Schaffhausen and told them, yeah, I'm thinking of offering like 950 for it. And the person from the bank was like, are you insane? This is not Zurich. This is Schaffhausen, and that's like a very bad neighborhood. So 950 is way too much. So I thought, well, maybe 950 is way too much. So yeah. Anyway, after the first round, my lowball offer was like 700 or something like this. It came out that the highest offer, because they communicated the highest offer of the first round, which is also nice. And I think we were a total of 11 bidders on the house. And the highest offer of the first round was 860,000 francs. And then, of course, was the question, well, yeah, the final offer, how much do I offer? So that's a question that really, we had like a week of time to submit, or maybe 10 days to submit the second offer. And this was something that really grated my nerves. And because the guy from the bank was like so negative, I thought ultimately I settled on paying 920,000 Swiss francs for the house. Because let's say the house is valued at 870 or something like that. And to me, paying 50 grand on top, even though it's a lot of money, I think it was worth it, because I thought, even if I grossly overpay for the house, I will most likely not find a similar house with the workshops underneath in this price range that fits this well. And when I say fits this well, usually, but the houses that I've seen until now that have like workshops or usable commercial spaces underneath that you could use to work on cars are either incredibly expensive, we're talking multiple millions, or they are like really old houses, like 80-year-old houses or attached houses or something like that. And this is a detached house, which is something that's also very important to me. So I don't share walls with anybody. And it's of sort of recent build. The house is from 2008. In the last video I said it's from 2010, but the walls outside were made in 2010. This house is from 2008. So still, it's a 16-year-old house. I mean, it's as old as my Lexus or my Porsche. I mean, for a house, that's not much. And it has, let's say, the relevant modern comforts. So to me, I would say paying 50 grand more than it's worth, I'm good with it. Especially because I was convinced that I was way overpaying. And then also my experience, when you bid on something, you should never bid an even number. So 920 is not a good idea. So I thought, well, I'd bid 921. And then I was still like torn and say, you know what? Maybe somebody else also has the same idea. Let's add another 5 grand. Come on. 926, that's the final price. If I can get it for 926, even though I grossly overpaid, I'll be happy. And if I don't get it, then it was too expensive. So I entered my bid of 926. And I won the house for 926. And when I say won, I won the bid. I still had to pay for the house. But 926,000 Swiss francs is what this wonderful house with those beautiful lamps back here cost me. 926,000 Swiss francs, which at the time I was convinced I had grossly overpaid, and I was content with it because it was like, all right, at least I got a house. It has cost me a bit more money than I maybe should have, but at least I got it and I can do something with it. Then, speaking to the real estate agent who was handling the sale, she then at some point told me that, it was pretty close. And I mean, what do you mean it was pretty close? I think I grossly overpaid. And she said, no. The other bidder, the second highest, only offered 5,000 francs less. So the other guy had offered 921. So it's those additional 5,000 francs that usually, in the end, got me the house. So that was like a lucky coincidence. It was a good intuition. And basically, now I don't have the feeling anymore that I grossly overpaid. Instead, I think I got the house for fair market value, which you now might say, oh, that's expensive for this, kind of weird, old, strange house. But this is Switzerland. And I'd say if this house was in a 15 to 20 kilometer range of Zurich, I think this house would have cost me at least twice as much. Because even though the house itself might not be that big, the living area, it still is 1,000 square meters of land. And in Switzerland, this stuff is just expensive, even though this is a bad neighborhood, it's sort of industrial and everything. But ultimately, I think I did all right. And so far, I'm happy. And now you might ask, Mario, so how exactly did you pay these 926,000 Swiss francs? Well, obviously I didn't. I financed the house. And what I financed, I can tell you, I have my laptop here with the numbers. I actually financed 694,500 francs. I got a mortgage for that. And the rest, which is, I think, 246,000, if I'm not completely mistaken, I paid myself. And now you might say, Mario, you had 250,000 francs. Yes, had is the right word. And just to make sure, I am not rich, but I am 40. I don't have a family, and I actually live quite frugally. I didn't live in a very expensive apartment until now. It was small, it was all I needed. My cars are old. I never bought a new car in my life. And I don't really go on expensive vacations. I don't even go out that much. So I actually live quite frugally, and this allows me to save up quite a bit. Plus, this year, I had quite a bit of luck on the stock markets. Some of my investments turned out really, really well, which also got me a little boost to make a bit of a more generous offer on the house. And so I was able to buy it. But also saving to buy a house here in Switzerland is also aided a bit by the fact that we have like 3 pillars for old age money saving and stuff like that. Like there's the legal pension that's just deducted from your pay, and then there's the second pillar, which is your pension fund from the company, which you also pay, which is also deducted from your pay. But then there's also the third pillar, which is completely voluntary, that you can pay. I think it's about a maximum of 7,000 francs a year. And if you pay that goes basically into an account that is locked, that you cannot use for anything except for when you reach pension age, or when you buy a house, or I think when you start a business. And that money that you pay onto that account, then you can also deduct from your taxes. So you save a bit of taxes by putting that money away for a day when you can buy a house. And I had done that for many years, so I had a bit of money in there, so I could use that completely to buy the house. Now I have to pay taxes on that, but now I had that money plus what I had saved up, and that. So I managed to buy the house, which is nice, which made me happy, because usually many people in Switzerland who buy houses, they need help from their parents, where they get either presents, or they also get loans from their parents or something like that, or they basically put a loan on their second pillar pension fund, which you can also do, and which I didn't have to do, which is also something I like, because that way I don't compromise my pension later on. So everything went well. But you might notice that 694,500, so almost 700,000 francs that I got as a mortgage is less than 80%, because I could have gotten 80%. But I choose to get less because I got a very advantageous offer with a lower interest rate if I got this sum. Because just for your reference, I did something everybody told me not to do, but I don't care, I did it anyway. I did a fixed term mortgage for 10 years, so I fixed the interest for 10 years. If it goes down, well, then I guess I'm paying too much. If it goes up, I know what I'm paying. And to be honest, I fixed it at an interest rate of 1.93%, which it has been lower in the past, but I remember when it was over 10%. So I think paying less than 2% of interest a year is completely acceptable. And I fixed it for 10 years, which means I know exactly what I'm going to pay the next 10 years, which is 13,404 francs a year, which is about 1,100 francs a month in interest payment. And now we have, again, the self-rent value, which I reckon on this house is probably around 1,300 or stuff like that. I really don't know it. But due to my interest payments, that goes basically almost to zero, which helps a bit with taxes. But basically my interest payments, they are 1,100 bucks a month, and that's what the house costs me. Of course, there's upkeep and other stuff. And of course, there's also the paying off the mortgage, because I am now at like 75% mortgage. Don't name me on the numbers, I haven't calculated, and I need to go down to 66% within the next 15 years. So basically I will amortize, I think, around 7,000 francs a year. And now you might remember 7,000 francs a year is a number I already mentioned before. Yes, it's the third pillar pension fund. Again, because I can amortize the mortgage by just paying into that fund again. So instead of paying these 7,000 francs a year to save up for a house, now I can do the very same thing to basically pay off my mortgage, which I'm still paying it, but I would have paid into that fund anyway because of the positive tax implications it has, because it's deducted from your taxable income. So basically that doesn't change. I would have paid these 7 grand a year anyway. So all I really have, except for the maintenance of the house, which is a big portion, but I'm paying 1,100 bucks a month, more or less, to live here. Plus, of course, power, plus water, plus garbage disposal, plus whatever breaks and I need to fix. Yes, but in comparison to the small apartment I live in, which is, I think the apartment is maybe around half the size of this house, of the livable part of the house. I think it's a 70 square meters apartment, and that apartment costs me, with all the garage spaces that I rented, that I don't have to rent anymore here because I have them, I pay around 2 grand a month. So basically by owning this house, I can now live cheaper than when I was a renter. I also completely forgot that since one of the workshops will remain rented, I will have an income of 800 francs a month for that workshop. So that's 9,600 francs a year that goes towards covering my costs, which means I can live even more cheaply as long as that workshop remains rented out. So this should also help me save money in the future, even though saving money isn't really a thing, I realized, owning a house, because these things bleed you dry. And when I say bleed you dry, I want to use this as a segue to go over to what I'm going to do with this house. It still looks the same, more or less, but I think I can show you while walking through the house what we're going to change, what improvements we're going to make. So let's go. The sunroom will stay the way it is for now, because all the changes will happen inside. And here we go over my new tools I just bought. I had treated myself to a bit of tools. We start here with the chimney. This might be a bit of an unpopular thing I'm going to do, but this little oven, I'm getting rid of it. I first thought of moving it into the sunroom, but then I realized I will never fire it up. I just don't like this. I don't like burning wood. So this takes away some space and it needs to go. Also, the wood elevator behind here, the wood elevator I will not use. Instead, I will use this little shaft. It's actually not even that little, it's quite large. But I use the shaft for the wood elevator to bring down cables to the cellar, because I want to basically equip the house with LAN cables, Cat 8 Ethernet, and this is a great place to bring all the cables down in the cellar and have my little server rack there and my switches and everything. So everything will go down here. This beautiful door most likely will disappear. And if you look at this chimney here, you will realize that there is this part here, which I didn't show in the last video because I wasn't sure whether I was going to use it or not, but now I'm going to remove this whole part. I'm going to cut it off here and this protruding part and make it flush. And now you might wonder, Mario, what is there? Why did you cut it? Behind here, there is a safe, which sadly was empty, but I am never going to use this. And also, I'd rather have the space here than this safe. So this is going away. You might also notice that there were walls here, like wooden panels. I've gotten rid of them. Back here also, because I think it opens up everything and it makes it a bit more airy, more light. So this has to go. The thing is, the stairs, they kind of look out of place. So I'm now considering also having the stairs replaced because they are not very pretty. And also they kind of don't fit the whole aesthetic I'm going for. These wood panels up there, they will be removed. And then we have a like wall like here. It's going to be much less woody in here. The chimney itself, I know some people will hate this, but I don't want to see those bricks. Even though it's very nice bricklaying, this is not what I want inside a house. If it was outside, I wouldn't mind. But so all of this will be painted, it will be covered, it will be painted. No more bricks will be visible. And speaking of bricks being visible, we have the arch and the little brick wall with a beautiful gate on top. They will go, they will be removed. So the arch will go, it will just be straight cut from the top with no arch, and also those protruding bricks, it will be flush with the wall. The little wall will go, and the gate obviously goes as well because it just doesn't belong here. Then if we go to this side of the chimney, here we see another part, which is, I think it's part of the arch that comes back here. This will also be cut. It will be flush, I think, here, like this, with the arch on top. That's not there anymore. And also on this side, you see there's a little door, and you might wonder, Mario, what is on this side under the door? The other side was a safe, so what is this? Well, it's a second safe. This house has two safes, and both are empty, and both are in the living room for reasons. So this is going to get removed also, and it will come down basically to here. This is the depth it's going to be. I think this one to this. You cannot see it. So the depth will be here. Where the wall ends up here, this is the depth we're going to have in the future. So this will be closed off a bit, and this will be removed. I was actually told today by the electrician that this arch was built by an apprentice back in the day as his like final apprentice work, like their thesis or something like that, which I have to say, they did a very good work. I just don't like it. So this is going to get removed. It's going to get a bit slimmer. This wall will stay. This wall will also stay, but we're going to open the passage to the top, to the ceiling, because it's like low for no reason. So this will get opened up to make it a bit more airy, and also so that I don't bump into this part whenever I have a broom, I transport a broom or something like that. So we're getting rid of this. By the way, this is the entrance without the separator walls. It's kind of airy. It's still a bit dark because it's already late in the evening, but now from the entrance you can see into the living room. I think it's a big improvement. But from here, we go into the kitchen. And if we go into the kitchen and look at the floor, we see, well, next to this crime scene tape on the floor, we see also a couple of tiles, because in the last video I said I was going to keep the kitchen, and now I'm not going to keep it anymore. And the reason is very simple. These wooden floors, this house has hardwood floors. They're not the prettiest hardwood floors in my opinion, but they are sort of decent quality floors, even though they basically didn't do a continuous floor. They had like, it doesn't make sense. Anyway, not the prettiest floor, and the problem is they are in quite bad shape. For example, here, if you can see it, they're completely lifted, and there are two other places in the house where they're lifted. So they would need repairing anyway, and since I don't like them, I am going to tear them out and replace them with another unpopular choice, tile floor. So this is going to be tiled and not wood anymore, because in a sort of living area, I don't particularly like wood because I think it's too delicate. And I prefer like a modern, clean tile. And then we also avoid things like here, where you have tiles, then you have hardwood, then you have tiles again back there. So, and then you have, there you have tile, and then you have hardwood again. It doesn't make sense. This is all going to become tiles, and it's probably going to be one of these three choices. These are three samples we received today, and our initial favorite was this one, but then my sister sprinkled some water on all of them, and these two remained stained. This one didn't. So this is my new favorite color for the whole house, basically. So I will most likely buy this tile and have the floor all done in this thing. That is, if it matches the kitchen, because I also buying a new kitchen, because I'm not going to put new floors around an old kitchen, especially if I want to replace it later on, which I do want. So all of this is coming out, and we're putting a completely new kitchen in. A much, much bigger kitchen, because this one is very small. So the new kitchen will basically go right up to here, up to the arch. So it's much bigger, and it will have like a central cooking island that we have measured down here with tape, which is also a reason why this wall has to go, because it's like it steals space. And also one of the reasons I'm knocking down parts of this chimney, because it gives more clearance here to walk through. So it will be less cramped, and also why this thing has to go, because it's just in the way. But yeah, this is new floors, new kitchen. Very expensive, by the way. The kitchen alone is 40 grand. 40 grand. The floors, I reckon, putting in the floors for this whole house will be, I think, around 10 grand. So that's quite reasonable, I think. But the kitchen is very expensive. But then again, I bought a very nice kitchen, and with very, very cool ovens and stuff and devices. And it's a very cool kitchen. You'll like it when you see it, I hope. This, of course, is going away, because the kitchen is not going to be here. The kitchen is just going to be that wall there and this wall plus the island here. So I think by removing this wall, it will also become much lighter here, everything. And since I'm pointing at the ceiling, another unpopular choice, most likely, the nice wooden beam ceiling, I don't like it. So at least here in the lower part of the living area, meaning not here where the ceilings are super high, in this part here, I will have drywall ceilings put on. So they will come down sort of here below the rafters, and then I have the possibility to put in spots, so recessed lights everywhere. I have the possibility to put in my motion sensors for the lights, obviously, and other stuff. I have the possibility to route cables, because I need more LAN cables and stuff, and it's easier to route them through a ceiling and everything. So this whole living area here, including the bathroom, will get new drywall ceilings. So this whole wood will not be visible anymore, which I know many people like, but to me it's way too rustic. I'm 40, I'm not 80. And this is not one of these traditional Swiss holiday huts. This is a place where I need to live, and it needs to be somewhat up to date. So drywall ceilings with recessed lights and everything, so I can get rid of these fantastic lights and whatever this is. And today the electrician was here, and basically I doubled the lights he had planned, because this house is so dim, and I don't like dim, I like bright. So I have added basically lights everywhere, even the bathroom which will not be changed for the time being. This will remain. What we will do, except for the ceiling, the electrician will bring power to the window, because right now there is no shutters on this window, and I'd like to have some shutters put in, and or put them in myself, and for that I need power, because I surely am not going to do manual shutters. So this goes in, and yeah, then this is actually all we do in the bathroom. It's not all we do in the bathroom. I forgot something. The window gets painted. So it doesn't remain brownish color. It will be, I don't know, most likely not white. I'm thinking of doing like a dark gray or something. And this is for all the windows, not just for the bathroom. So all the windows will get painted. They will probably get this darker gray treatment or something like this. Even those up there, the sunroom, I don't do anything in the sunroom, but I will paint the windows. I will not paint the doors because, as I was told by the painter, these doors are pieces of shit. So if he paints them, they will curl up and look bad. So I'm not gonna paint anything. The doors, I will replace them at some point because my contractor, I have hired a contractor who leads all the jobs here. She told me these doors, you can change them at any time because they're just basically tacked on. You can just take them off and put them on easily. So I will have them changed anyway. Yeah, this is my camp. I've slept here for the last couple of days. Every week, a couple of days, because I have to come here to cut down the grass and stuff like that. So this was my camp, and I have to clear everything because on Monday they start the demolition work. So on Monday they're going to demolish this, they're going to rip out the kitchen, they're going to rip out all the floors. So starting from Monday, this is not a house anymore, this is a construction site. So also I won't be spending any time here. But this is basically what I'm going to do with the house. The upper floor, I'm not going to do anything. That can stay the way it is. I don't need it. I will use it as an office, basically. But that's it. I'm not going to do anything. I am lying. I will do a little thing because first, I did demolish the doghouse in the corner, which I can show you. If you remember, there was this little weird room in the corner, and now it's not there anymore because I took it apart piece by piece and brought it down. So now this is basically a nice and somewhat open room. I think I gained a lot of space by doing this. It looks much nicer now, and I will just use this as an office. But in order to use it as an office, the electrician is going to bring up my Ethernet cables up here, so I can have my wired internet in the whole house the way it's supposed to be. He will also bring up Ethernet up there, where I have my modem right now, because once it's here, it's here. So Ethernet is going to come. I've added a few electrical outlets around the house. The window frames are going to get painted. The drywall ceilings are coming in. And this whole thing will get painted, plastered, and painted. And also, I will remove this wood and then have it also plastered and painted so that it looks a bit nicer. Considering that initially I was just going to grind down the floors and paint a few things, this has now evolved in a full-on renovation because it's one of those things, you know, while you're in there, and if you don't do them now, you're most likely never going to do them, because once you live in a house, it's not as easy to tear out all the floors. So this is something you have to do now. And then if you do the floors, you have to do the kitchen. And so things tend to spiral. And all in all, I reckon this whole renovation here, depending on what I do, depending on whether I replace the stairs or not, I think I'm going to spend between 110 and maybe 120,000 Swiss francs. So after having spent 926,000 francs on the house, I'm going to add another 100,000 on top. And yes, which is also, again, I have to say, I'm fortunate enough to actually have that money, but then it's really it. Then I'm completely out of money. So this is basically my last money I'm pouring into this house in order for me to have a nice place to live. And anything more I couldn't afford. This is also why the outside for now has to stay. This is also why the heating for now has to stay, because this house has a wood heating and I don't like wood heating because you have to chuck in wood basically every day during winter, and then you have to handle wood and it's a mess. But I got an offer for a new heating, for a heat pump, and they offered me 46,000 Swiss francs for the job, which even by looking at the offer multiple times, I still don't get why it's so expensive, because the heat pump itself was like 14,000 francs. So what's the other 32,000 francs? Are dentists and lawyers coming to install the heat pump? I don't get it. But anyway, this is too much money that I don't have. I want to do it at some point, but I have to, priorities. In my case, the priority is the living area. I have to do what I need to do before I move in, and the heating is something I can still do next year. I can do in 2 years whenever I got money, because apparently it's incredibly expensive to do it. And then with time, I will do more things. I will do the landscaping around the house. I have to clean up the junk around the house. I have to, at some points I will have to paint the exterior of the house because it's not in great shape. I mean, I started cleaning it a bit, but it's still not that good. And this is just the first step of a lot of work. Also, at some point, I will renovate the second floor. And the second floor, I plan to do at least a master bedroom, a large bathroom, maybe even do 2 rooms, because the space, I think, is a bit too large to just do 1 room. Even if you do like a walk-in closet or something like that, or a walk-in wardrobe, I still think the space might be a bit too much to just do that, but we will see. But I think doing that back in when I do it, and I think the upper floor is something I will do maybe in 5 to 10 years, because that will take me, I think, another 100 grand to do it, and to save up that much money, it's going to take time. So for now, the living area has to be good, and then everything else comes after. So I think I've rambled on enough about this house. I just wanted to show you where it's at now, because today is the last day I'm going to be here. Not today, technically it's tomorrow, but this is the last week I can spend some time here, because from next week this will be a construction site. Everything will be a construction site. I will still come here from time to time to, attend the garden and see the progress, but basically I will not spend like 2-3 days here, work from home from here. This will not work anymore. And this is it until I think I move in, which is still planned for the end of September. So I think this is also for now the last update I will give you on the house for a long time. I might maybe give you some update from within the garages, because one thing I am going to do probably is try to clean up the garages in the meantime. So I already started. I vacuumed all the spider webs from at least one garage. Then I had to clean. I need to pressure wash more, everything. I need to do so much work. But this is what consumes my life nowadays. Thankfully, I have what I think is a good contractor who handles everything, who checks the work, who knows what she's doing, and she's going to basically do everything, and I just have to say yes or no to things, or come by and just discuss the easy matter. And yes, like my cars, I don't do the work myself, because on the house I'd like the work to be done well. On the cars also, but I think the house is the amount of work that needs to be done here. Still, it would be even a bit overwhelming for a person. And I'm not going to lay down tiles on the floor, certainly not, because they need to be straight and well done, so the professional needs to do it. So I'm going to spend money, pay other people to do it, but I want it done it right. And then I can maybe save some money by maybe working on my cars. I don't know. We will have to see about that. But I really need to end this video. Again, thank you very much for watching. Comment down below, what do you think of my renovation plans? I mean, I'm going to do them anyway, but this is just something I also discussed with my contractor today. It's the previous owners, they built this house the way they wanted it. And for them, it was probably perfect. And I didn't say they built it badly, but it's just not the way I want it. And for me to really feel at home here, I need to make it a bit mine. And me being a single 40-year-old man, my vision of a homely home is probably different from a 70-year-old couple. To me, it basically has to look like a clean room, basically like I don't know, like an abattoir, white, clean, no clutter, and this is what I'm going to do. I think it's still going to be quite lively and nice, but I'm not the guy who puts up planters and stuff like that, so it's still going to be a guy's place, but I reckon it's going to look fabulous. But we will see that in, I reckon, about 3 months' time. So set your alarms. In 3 months, I will probably do an update video on the house, or a final update video on the house. I think I will do 1 or 2 updates video in between. But for this video, it's enough. Again, comment down below what you think of my plans. Maybe if you have an additional good idea what I could or should do, put it in. Just to be sure, here in Switzerland, no ventilation, no air conditioning stuff. Houses don't have that. We usually just have radiant heatings from the floor, and that's it. And in the summer, you're sweating. Even though this house, I think, is quite well isolated, because on really hot days like today's, in the house, it's quite cool if you keep the windows closed. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. Follow me on Instagram at SwissCarGuyMario if you want to see kind of slightly more frequent videos, or me ranting about somebody having driven into my car again. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Have a nice day. Bye. It's really warm. This was a long